The Santa Rosa Cartel picked the wrong day and the wrong man when they targeted the Rio Grande Detention Facility in Rio Seiko, Texas. Their intelligence had failed to mention that the ordinary-looking security chief, Robert Chandler, was a legendary Delta Force commander with blood-soaked hands and 27 years of eliminating America's enemies. As cartel hitmen crept toward the facility that spring morning, they were unaware they were walking into the crosshairs of 6 of the most lethal Special Forces veterans ever assembled. Men whose combat skills had been honed in the deadliest corners of Iraq, Afghanistan, and secret operations no government would acknowledge. What followed would shake the foundations of U.S.-Mexico relations and leave bodies scattered across the desert borderland. The cartel came for a high-value prisoner who could destroy their organization with her testimony. Instead, they encountered a nightmare squad of military elites with cutting-edge tactical gear and a personal vendetta. When the dust settled, the detention facility would stand, justice would be served, and the world would learn a brutal lesson. Some men aren't just trained to fight, they're trained to win at any cost. Quick pause before we continue. Tell us, where in the world are you watching from? If you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit subscribe, because tomorrow's episode is absolutely mind-blowing. The sun rose slowly over the dusty plains of Rio Seiko, Texas, just 12 miles from the Mexican border, where the Rio Grande cuts through the earth like a dull knife. For most, it was just another Tuesday. For Robert Chandler, it marked 1,000 days since he'd last been in combat. From the porch of his modest ranch-style home, Robert sipped his coffee and stared at the horizon. He never counted the days after retiring from Delta Force. Never saw the point. 27 years of service had taught him that counting only mattered when you were waiting for something, and Robert Chandler wasn't waiting anymore. Or so he thought. 1,000 days since Kandahar. 1,000 days of trying to forget what he'd seen, what he'd done. His weathered face remained alert despite the early hour, his eyes constantly scanning his surroundings, a habit formed through decades of vigilance. When his phone rang, Robert glanced at it with mild irritation before answering. "Chandler," he answered curtly. "Morning, Captain." "Long time," came a familiar voice that made Robert straighten immediately. "Colonel Harris, I didn't expect to hear from you again." "Neither did I, but circumstances change. You still working at that detention facility?" "Going on 3 years now. Just security consultation." "Not anymore. You're the new head of security. Paperwork's already been processed." Robert frowned. "I didn't apply for any promotion." "You didn't need to. This comes from upstairs, way upstairs." Standing up, suddenly alert, Robert asked, "What's going on, Colonel?" "Intelligence suggests the Santa Rosa Cartel is planning something big. Target is your facility." "Why would they hit a detention center?" "That's what you need to find out, and fast. We've authorized a special security unit for you. Former operators, all of them Delta." Robert asked, his mind already calculating possibilities. "And others?" "They'll be reporting to you by 1800 today." Robert's expression hardened as he processed this information. "Who am I really protecting, Colonel?" "Everyone. That's all you need to know for now. Your team's files are being sent to your secure email. I suggest you start reading." The call ended, leaving Robert standing motionless for a moment before walking inside his house to a small office where he opened his laptop. Robert Chandler had left war behind, or so he believed, but war has a way of finding those who know its language best. Opening his email, Robert found 6 personnel files waiting. As he scrolled through them, he saw faces and military records that told a clear story. The first file belonged to Michael Torres, a former Navy SEAL with extensive combat experience in maritime interdiction operations, specialized in weapon systems and close-quarters combat. 4 tours in Iraq, 2 in Afghanistan. The photo showed a sturdy Hispanic man with calculating eyes and a serious expression. Next was Sarah Wilson, an Army intelligence expert in electronic surveillance and signals intelligence. She'd spent 5 years embedded with Delta on high-risk operations. Her file noted exceptional analytical skills and fluency in Spanish and Arabic. Her photo revealed an athletic woman with sharp eyes and brown hair pulled back tightly. James Peterson, known as Doc, a former Special Forces medic with additional training in forensic pathology. 3 silver stars for valor under fire. His weathered face and steady gaze spoke of a man who had seen too much death, but remained unbroken. Derek Johnson, a Green Beret demolitions expert who'd spent years training counterterrorism units across South America. His specialties included perimeter security and counter-infiltration tactics. His dark features were set in a permanent half-smile that didn't reach his serious eyes. The last file made Robert pause. Elena Vasquez, a former undercover DEA agent who'd infiltrated cartel operations on both sides of the border, currently working for ICE. Her file noted a personal connection to a Santa Rosa cartel case, but offered no details. Her photo showed a striking Latina woman with fierce determination in her expression. "What the hell are you expecting, Colonel?" Robert muttered to himself. One particular file caught his attention. Facility Intelligence Update, classified. He opened it to find sparse information about a detainee named Gabriela Reyes. The file simply stated she was a high-value witness in federal custody, awaiting testimony in a major case against the Santa Rosa cartel. Witness protection had been deemed insufficient due to the cartel's infiltration of law enforcement. Instead, she'd been placed in the detention facility under a false identity among regular migrants, where no one would think to look for her. The Santa Rosa Cartel. The name sent a jolt of cold rage through Robert's body. He opened a drawer and pulled out an old photograph. A younger version of himself, standing next to a woman and a young girl, all smiling against a backdrop of a summer day long past. Maria and Sophia, his wife and daughter, killed 12 years ago when they were caught in cartel crossfire while visiting Maria's family in Ciudad Juarez. "Wrong place, wrong time," the officials had said. Just innocent bystanders in the cartel's bloody business. Robert had been deployed overseas when it happened. By the time he returned, the killers had vanished. The Santa Rosa cartel had denied involvement, and without proof there was nothing he could do. He'd been forced to bury his family and his rage together. Now, fate had placed him directly in the cartel's path again. Robert tucked the photo away and returned to the intelligence briefing. The potential attack on the facility was believed to be imminent. The cartel had reportedly been moving personnel and equipment across the border over the past several weeks. Electronic chatter suggested they had someone inside the facility, but the identity of the infiltrator was unknown. The Rio Grande Detention Facility housed over 2,000 migrants awaiting asylum hearings or deportation proceedings. To most of the world, it was just another link in America's complex and controversial immigration system. To Robert Chandler, as of today, it was a fortress that needed defending. An hour later, Robert's truck kicked up dust as he drove toward the facility. The colonel's warning echoed in his mind. The Santa Rosa Cartel didn't make moves this bold without good reason. Whatever or whoever they wanted inside that facility must be extremely valuable. As Robert pulled up to the security gate, the midday sun beat down on the complex. The security guard checked his ID, then waved him through with newfound respect. "Good morning, Mr. Chandler. Or should I say Chief Chandler now?" the guard said with a small smile. "Just Robert is fine, Mike." News travels fast. Faster than usual around here lately. People are on edge. Robert parked his truck and walked toward the administration building, observing everything with new eyes. He had worked at the facility for nearly 3 years as a security consultant, hired more for his resume than his expertise. The management had been content to let him suggest improvements they never implemented. That was about to change. Inside the administration building, Robert was met by a nervous-looking woman in her early 40s. "Mr. Chandler, thank you for coming in early. I'm Linda Walsh, the new facility director," she said, extending her hand. "New? What happened to Director Alvarez?" Robert asked, shaking her hand firmly. "Reassigned yesterday. Rather suddenly. Much like your promotion, I understand." As they walked together down a corridor, Walsh lowered her voice. "I'll be frank, Mr. Chandler. I was told to give you complete operational authority over security matters, but I wasn't told why. Care to enlighten me?" "I know as much as you do, Director. Just following orders." Walsh gave him a skeptical look. 20 years in government work tells me that's rarely the whole story, but I'll play along for now." They reached a secure door marked Security Operations. Walsh used her key card to open it, revealing a command center with multiple monitoring stations and a large digital map of the facility on the wall. "Your new domain," Walsh said. "Upgraded last week." "Another coincidence, I'm sure," Robert replied, surveying the room. "Who else has access?" "Just you, me, and your team. Whoever they may be. I was informed you'd be bringing in specialists." Robert nodded. "They arrive this evening. I'll need quarters for 6 people, isolated from the general. Staff, if possible." "Already arranged. Building SE West Wing. It's been cleared." Walsh handed him a folder. "These are the current security protocols. I'm told you'll be revising them." Robert took the folder without opening it. "I'd like to walk the perimeter first." "Alone." Walsh checked her watch. "I have a briefing in 10 minutes. Meet me in my office at 3. We should discuss the immigration rights advocates who are visiting tomorrow. Advocates, congressional delegation, plus some media. Scheduled weeks ago." "Can't be postponed. They're concerned about conditions here." "Ironic timing, wouldn't you say?" Robert's expression remained neutral. "I'll see you at 3. As Walsh left, Robert approached the digital map, studying entry points, camera positions, and potential vulnerabilities. His military training kicked in automatically, identifying choke points and defensive positions. But his mind kept returning to one question. Why would the Santa Rosa Cartel risk attacking a U.S. government facility? Robert pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "Sanchez," a gruff voice answered. "It's Chandler. You still with Border Patrol?" "Intelligence, going on 15 years now. What's up, Captain?" "Heard you went civilian." "I need information on recent Santa Rosa activities. Anything unusual in the past month?" A pause. "This line isn't secure for that conversation." "I know. Meet me. Cisco's Diner, 1400 hours. "That bad, huh?" "I'll be there." Robert ended the call and turned his attention back to the map. Whatever was coming, he needed to be ready. He thought of the personnel files he'd reviewed. 5 operators, all with distinguished service records, all with combat experience that matched or exceeded his own. A team like that wasn't assembled for a routine security threat. Outside, in the hot Texas sun, Robert walked the facility's perimeter, noting surveillance blind spots and potential breach points. The facility had been built for processing and detention, not defense against a coordinated attack. That would have to change fast. His phone vibrated with a text message. Package arriving. 1300 hours. Loading dock. B. The package arrived precisely at 1300 hours. Robert stood alone at loading dock B as a nondescript delivery truck backed up to the platform. The driver approached with a handheld scanner. "Delivery for Chief Chandler," she said, her posture and alertness betraying military training despite her civilian appearance. "I'm Chandler." She handed him the scanner. "Biometric verification required." Robert pressed his thumb to the device, which beeped in confirmation. "Your delivery, sir," she said, and returned to the truck. She opened the rear doors to reveal 6 large metal cases with government markings. As the truck pulled away, Robert carried the cases one by one into a secure storage room. Using the confirmation code, he opened the first case. Inside was an assortment of tactical gear, body armor, communications equipment, and night vision goggles. The remaining cases contained medical supplies, weapons, ammunition, surveillance equipment, breaching tools, and tactical diversions. This wasn't gear for defending a detention facility. This was equipment for war. As Robert closed the final case, his thoughts turned to the woman in the classified file, Gabriela Reyes. Somewhere in this facility was a person the Santa Rosa cartel wanted badly enough to risk everything. And Robert Chandler was now the only thing standing between her and certain death. He wouldn't fail. Not this time. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. At precisely 1800 hours, a government-issue SUV pulled up to the facility's main entrance. Robert watched from the security office as 5 individuals exited the vehicle. Even in civilian clothes, they moved with the distinctive efficiency of military operators. Economical movements, constant awareness of surroundings, perfect spacing between them, like wolves in a practiced hunting formation. Robert met them in the conference room he designated as their temporary command center. Maps of the facility covered one wall. Surveillance feeds displayed on monitors along another. The 5 operators stood at parade rest until Robert closed the door behind him. "At ease," Robert said. "I'm Robert Chandler." "Michael Torres," said the stocky Hispanic man. "Navy SEAL Team 6, weapons specialist." His handshake was firm, his assessment of Robert quick and professional. "Sarah Wilson," said the woman with sharp features and intelligent eyes. "Army Intelligence, Electronic Surveillance, and Signals." "James Peterson, everyone calls me Doc," said the older man with steady hands. "Special Forces medic." "Derek Johnson, Green Beret, Demolitions and Perimeter Security," said the tall black man with serious eyes. The last woman stepped forward. "Elena Vasquez, DEA Undercover Operations, currently ICE." Robert nodded, studying each face. "I've reviewed your files. Impressive records, all of you. You've been briefed on the situation. Only that the Santa Rosa cartel is planning something big, and this facility is the target," Torres replied. "That's about all I know, too," Robert admitted. "But I think I found the why. He tapped a key on his laptop, bringing up the classified file on the main screen. Gabriela Reyes, currently housed in the women's wing under the name Maria Diaz. She's a key witness in a federal case against the Santa Rosa Cartel. Apparently important enough that traditional witness protection was deemed insufficient. "Who is she?" Elena asked, studying the photo with unusual intensity. "File doesn't say. Only that her testimony could dismantle the entire cartel structure. She's been here for 3 weeks, and the cartel found out," Wilson concluded. "Seems that way," Robert agreed. "What we don't know is how much they know, when they're coming, or if they already have someone inside." "They do," Elena said flatly. When everyone turned to her, she continued. "Santa Rosa doesn't make moves this significant without inside intelligence. It's standard procedure for them." "That's what I figured," Robert said. "Which means we trust no one outside this room. Not the guards, not the staff, not even the director." "Speaking of," Doc said, "how did we all get assigned here so quickly? I was in North Carolina yesterday." Robert's expression turned grim. "That's what troubles me. Someone high up has taken a personal interest in this, someone with enough authority to move all of us like chess pieces. Or someone needed a special response team ready," Torres suggested. "Either way," Robert continued, "our job is clear. We secure the facility, identify the insider, locate and protect Gabriela Reyes, and prepare for a possible assault by cartel forces. Questions?" "Timeline?" Johnson asked. "Intelligence suggests imminent action. Could be days, could be hours." "Complicating factors," Wilson added. "Congressional delegation arriving tomorrow. Media presence expected. We can't postpone without raising flags." "Rules of engagement?" Torres asked the question they all needed answered. Robert met each of their gazes. "Official channels say defensive measures only. Minimum force necessary." He paused. "Unofficially, we do what needs to be done. These people are coming to kill a witness and anyone who gets in their way. I won't let that happen." The team exchanged all glances, a silent communication passing between them. "We're with you, Chief," Torres said, speaking for all of them. "Good. Gear is in the storage room. Get equipped." Then Torres and Johnson start a security audit of the perimeter. "Wilson, I want you on the electronic surveillance systems. Doc, review the medical facilities and prepare for casualties. Vasquez, you're with me. We're going to find our witness." As the team dispersed, Elena lingered. "Can I speak with you privately, Chief?" Robert nodded, and they stepped into a corner of the room. "There's something you should know," Elena said, her voice low. "Gabriela Reyes isn't just any witness. She was Alejandra Cortez's mistress." "Cortez? The head of Santa Rosa?" "Yes. But more importantly, she's his financial manager. She knows where every dollar is hidden, every bribe is paid, every property is registered. She can not only testify to his crimes, she can help the government seize billions in assets." Robert studied her face. "That's not in the file." "No, it wouldn't be. That information is compartmentalized at the highest levels. How do you know?" Elena hesitated. "I was undercover in the Santa Rosa organization for 2 years. I was extracted just before Gabriela turned herself in to the DEA. You knew her?" "We worked together. She was my primary contact." Elena's eyes hardened. "Cortez won't just send men to kill her, he'll come himself. This is personal for him." Robert processed this new information. Did Colonel Harris know about your connection when he assigned you here? I don't know. Maybe. Stay close to me. If anyone can identify cartel infiltrators, it's you. Elena nodded. There's one more thing you should know. Cortez has a second-in-command, Diego Fuentes. If they're making a move this bold, he's likely running the operation. He's brutal, innovative in his cruelty. Former Mexican Special Forces before he went to work for the cartels. Great, Robert muttered. A professional. The worst kind. Cisco's Diner sat on the outskirts of Rio Seiko, a weathered establishment frequented by Border Patrol agents and locals alike. Robert arrived at exactly 1400 hours, choosing a booth in the back with clear sight lines to all entrances. Carlos Sanchez arrived 5 minutes later, his Border Patrol uniform replaced by civilian clothes, though the bulge of his sidearm was visible under his jacket. He slid into the booth across from Robert. "Been a while, Sanchez," Robert said, signaling the waitress for coffee. "Too long," Sanchez agreed. "How's the family?" "Had better days." The waitress brought coffee and departed. Sanchez leaned forward. "So? What's so urgent about Santa Rosa?" "They're planning to hit the detention facility. I need to know what you've heard." "A strike team," Robert concluded. "That's my guess. There's something else. We intercepted a vehicle 3 days ago. 2 cartel soldiers. They had detailed maps of Rio Seiko, including infrastructure information. The detention facility, not specifically, but they had water and power grid layouts that include service to that area." Sanchez sipped his coffee. "There's chatter about a high-value extraction. We assumed they meant a drug shipment. Or a person." "What person could be worth this kind of operation?" Robert didn't answer directly. "Any timeline indications?" "Soon. One of the men we captured had instructions to be in position by Thursday, day after tomorrow." Robert noted. "I want to tell me what's going on. Why are you involved?" "I'm head of security at the facility now." Sanchez's eyebrows rose. "Since when?" "This morning." "That's convenient timing, isn't it?" Robert agreed. "Anything else I should know?" Sanchez hesitated. "Just rumors. Word is Alejandro Cortez himself crossed over 3 days ago, traveling with heavy security." Robert tensed. "Cortez is here? In the U.S.? "That's the rumor. Can't confirm if it's true. This is bigger than we thought." "Be careful, Robert. These aren't the Taliban or Iraqi insurgents. The cartels have people everywhere. Police, border patrol, local government." "I know." Sanchez studied his old friend. "There's something you're not telling me." Robert met his gaze. "Better you don't know." "Fair enough." Sanchez slid a phone across the table. "Burner. My direct number is programmed in. You need backup? You call." "Appreciated." "One last thing," Sanchez said as they stood to leave. "Our surveillance picked up increased activity at an abandoned ranch about 15 miles south of town. Might be nothing, but there's been vehicle movement at odd hours. Address, 178 Old Canyon Road. Used to be the Hernandez place before the bank took it." Robert nodded his thanks, and they parted ways. Back at the facility, Robert found Elena waiting for him in the security office. "We should talk to Gabriela," she said without preamble. "She might know more about what Cortez is planning." "Agreed," Robert replied. "But we need to be careful about approaching her. If there's an insider, they'll report any unusual interest in a supposedly ordinary detainee." "I have an idea," Elena suggested. "ICE is conducting routine interviews with detainees about facility conditions. I could add her to my interview list." Do it. Robert pulled up the facility schematics on the main monitor as Wilson entered the room. Security systems are a joke, she announced. Camera coverage has significant blind spots, especially along the north perimeter. Electronic locks can be overridden with basic equipment, and their monitoring software hasn't been updated in 3 years. Can you fix it? Some of it. I've already patched the most critical vulnerabilities and repositioned some cameras, but we really need a hardware upgrade for proper security. Work with what we've got, Robert ordered. Focus on early warning systems. I want to know the moment anyone approaches the perimeter. Torres and Johnson returned next, their expressions grim. Physical security isn't much better, Torres reported. Fence is standard chain link with razor wire, easy enough to cut through in multiple locations. Main gate is the only section with proper reinforcement. Johnson added, Guard rotations are predictable. Patrol patterns fixed. Any decent team could time their movements to avoid detection. Staff? Robert asked. Minimal at night. Skeleton crew of 15 guards, 3 medical personnel, and 2 administrators between midnight and 0600. Robert processed this information. We need to establish a secure perimeter around Gabriella's location without being obvious about it. Wilson, can you isolate her cell block security systems from the main network? Already working on it. I can set up a secondary system that will continue functioning even if the main system is compromised. Good. Johnson, I want blind spots covered with improvised motion sensors. Nothing fancy, just enough to alert us. Torres, work up a defense plan for the women's wing. I want multiple fallback positions. We'll do it, Torres said. Robert turned to the facility map. Based on intel, we have less than 48 hours before they make their move. Let's make every minute count. While the team dispersed to their assignments, Robert headed to Director Walsh's office for their scheduled meeting. He found her reviewing documents, her expression troubled. Director? Robert greeted her. Mr. Chandler? She responded, gesturing to a chair. Please sit down. I've just received the final schedule for tomorrow's congressional visit. They're bringing more media than initially planned. The delegation has specific interest in the women's detention area. Why? There have been allegations of mistreatment. Nothing substantiated, but enough to attract attention. She studied him. Your security changes, do they need to be completed before this visit? Absolutely. That urgent, Robert chose his words carefully. We've received credible intelligence about a possible security situation. What kind of situation? I'm not at liberty to discuss specifics. Walsh leaned back in her chair, clearly frustrated. Mr. Chandler, I'm the facility director. If there's a threat to my staff or the detainees, I need to know. What I can tell you is that we have reason to believe there may be an attempt to breach facility security in the near future. My team is implementing preventative measures. Should we cancel the congressional visit? That would draw unwanted attention. Better to proceed normally, while we heighten security discreetly. Walsh studied him for a long moment. There's something you're not telling me. Many things, Robert admitted. For your safety and operational security. I don't like being kept in the dark in my own facility. Understood, but those are my orders. Walsh sighed. Very well. You have my cooperation for now, but I expect to be briefed fully when this situation is resolved. Of course. As Robert left the office, his phone vibrated with a text from Elena. Found her. Meeting in 30 minutes, Women's Wing, Interview Room B. 30 minutes later, Robert sat beside Elena in a small interview room, watching through the observation window as guards brought in a slender woman with long, dark hair. Gabriela Reyes, or Maria Diaz, as her facility paperwork identified her, looked exhausted and frightened. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept well in days. "She looks terrible," Elena murmured. "She knows they're coming," Robert replied. When the guards left, Elena entered the interview room alone while Robert watched through the one-way glass. The women embraced briefly. "Gabriela," Elena said softly. "Come. What are you doing here?" Gabriela glanced nervously at the camera in the corner. "It's okay," Elena said. "The cameras are looped. No one is listening." Gabriela's shoulders sagged with relief. "He's coming for me. I can feel it." "We know. That's why I'm here. We're going to protect you." "You don't understand. He's already here." Gabriela leaned closer. "There's someone inside the facility. One of the guards. I recognized him 2 days ago. He used to work security at Alejandro's compound. Tall man. Scar on his neck. He works the night shift in D block. Does he know you recognized him?" "I don't think so. I've been avoiding him." Elena nodded. "Smart. Listen, we're moving you tonight. Somewhere safer, within the facility." "No place is safe," Gabriela said, her voice breaking. "Alejandro won't stop. You know what he's capable of." "Yes, I do. But he doesn't know who he's up against this time." Elena reached across the table and squeezed Gabriela's hand. "Trust me. Can you describe the guard in detail?" As Gabriela provided a description, Robert made notes. They had their first solid lead on the insider. Now they needed to neutralize the threat before the main attack came. Back in the security office, Robert briefed the team on what they learned. "Torres, I want you to identify this guard and put him under surveillance. Don't approach him yet. We need to know if he's working with anyone else inside." "Got it. Wilson, check personnel files. Find out everything you can about him." "Already on it." "The rest of you continue preparations. We're moving Gabriela tonight to a secure location within the facility. Elena and I will handle the transfer personally." After the team dispersed, Doc lingered. "You're expecting casualties," he observed. "Planning for all contingencies," Robert replied. "I saw the medical supplies you brought in. Combat trauma kits, blood supplies. That's not preparation for a security incident. That's preparation for a war." "Your point?" "My point is, there are over 2,000 civilians in this facility. If bullets start flying, they're at risk." "I'm aware of that." "Are you?" "Because I'm getting the sense there's more to this than protecting a witness." Robert fixed Doc with a hard stare. "I read the intelligence file. I know the Santa Rosa cartel is involved." Doc paused. "I also know they were responsible for what happened to your family." Robert tensed. "How?" "I was stationed at Fort Bragg when it happened. Word got around. You took emergency leave, came back different." "That's not relevant to the current situation." "Isn't it?" Doc challenged. "Look, I've patched up enough men to know when someone's carrying a vendetta. Just make sure your personal history doesn't cloud your judgment. There are innocent lives at stake." "I know exactly what's at stake," Robert said coldly. "Are we done?" Doc nodded and left without another word, leaving Robert alone with his thoughts and the growing weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Outside, the sun began its descent toward the horizon. Night would bring relative safety from the congressional eyes that would arrive tomorrow, but darkness had always been a friend to those who moved in shadows. And somewhere out in that gathering darkness, Robert knew the cartel was making its final preparations. Time was running out. Night fell over the Rio Grande Detention Facility, bringing a deceptive calm. Robert stood in the security office, studying the personnel file Wilson had pulled up on the monitor. Guard Ramon Vega, 32, hired 8 months ago. Background check showed military service and previous work in private security. Nothing suspicious on paper, but the scar on his neck matched Gabriella's description perfectly. Employment history has gaps, Wilson noted. 2 years unaccounted for between his military discharge and joining the facility staff. 2 years working for Cortez, Elena said grimly. He was one of the compound guards when I was undercover. Not high-ranking, but trusted. Robert studied the guard's schedule. He's on duty now, D block, just like Gabriella said. I've been monitoring him through the cameras, Torres reported. He's following his normal patrol route, but he's checked his phone 6 times in the last hour. Waiting for instructions, Robert concluded. We need to neutralize him quietly before we move Gabriella. I can handle it, Elena offered. Robert shook his head. Too risky. If he recognizes you from your undercover days, it blows everything. He turned to Torres. You and I will take him. Wilson, loop the cameras in the maintenance corridor behind D block. Johnson, be ready to secure him once we have him. The plan came together quickly. Within 20 minutes, Wilson had created a camera blind spot in the maintenance corridor that intersected with Vega's patrol route. Torres positioned himself at one end of the corridor while Robert waited at the other. Johnson prepared a secure holding room where they could question the guard away from prying eyes. Target approaching, Wilson's voice came through their earpieces. 30 seconds. Robert pressed himself against the wall, waiting. Footsteps echoed in the concrete corridor, growing louder. The guard's shadow appeared first, stretched long by the overhead. Lights. As they stepped into view, Robert gave the signal. Torres emerged from his position, calling out casually, Hey, Vega! Got a sec? The guard turned, momentarily distracted. It was all the opening Robert needed. He moved silently behind Vega, wrapping one arm around the man's throat in a practiced chokehold. The guard struggled briefly before Torres stepped in, securing his arms. Within seconds, Vega lost consciousness. Clear, Robert said into his comm, moving to interrogation. They carried the unconscious guard to the prepared room, securing him to a chair before reviving him. Vega's eyes fluttered open, confusion quickly giving way to alarm as he realized his situation. What the hell is this? He demanded, testing his restraints. We know who you are, Robert said calmly. We know who you work for. Vega's expression hardened, but he remained silent. Here's how this goes, Robert continued. You tell us Cortez's plan for attacking the facility, and maybe you walk away from this. I don't know what you're talking about, Vega insisted. I'm just a guard. Elena stepped into the room, staying just out of Vega's line of sight. He's lying, she said. I recognize him from the Santa Rosa compound. Vega's head snapped toward her voice, eyes widening in recognition. You, he spat. The Gringa spy. So much for your cover story, Torres remarked. Robert leaned closer to Vega. Let's try again. What's Cortez planning? Vega smirked despite his situation. You're already too late. It's happening tonight. Robert exchanged alarmed glances with Torres. What's the target? Wouldn't you like to know? Vega taunted. You think you're so smart, But you have no idea what's coming. Robert nodded to Torres, who left the room briefly, returning with a syringe. Last chance, Robert warned. Tell us voluntarily, or we do this the hard way. What? You going to torture me? Vega laughed. In an American government facility? You don't have the balls. This isn't torture, Torres explained, holding up the syringe. Just a mild sedative with a side effect of making you extremely talkative. Military-grade truth serum, not approved for civilian use, of course. But we're not exactly civilians. Vega's confident expression faltered slightly. Now, we can do this the easy way, where you tell us what we need to know, Robert offered. Or we can pump you full of chemicals that will have you singing like a canary while feeling like your skin is on fire. Your choice. The guard's eyes darted between the syringe and Robert's face, calculating his options. Finally, his shoulders slumped slightly. Fine. But I want protection when Cortez finds out I talked. Deal, Robert agreed. Now talk. The attack comes at 0200, 3 teams. First team cuts power to the facility. Second breaches the south fence by the generator building. Third comes through the main gate. During the confusion, how many men? 25, maybe 30. Special forces backgrounds, heavily armed, and their objective, primary target, the woman, Gabriela Reyes. Secondary is accessing the records room. Records room? Robert pressed. Why? I don't know. I just relay information and identify the target's location. Where's Cortez now? Vega hesitated. Old Hernandez Ranch. He's running the operation personally. The place on Old Canyon Road, Robert murmured, recalling Sanchez's intelligence. Is Diego Fuentes with him? Elena asked. Vega nodded. He's leading the assault team. Robert checked his watch. 21 or 30 hours. Just over 4 hours until the attack. How are you supposed to help during the assault? Torres demanded. Disable the backup generator and open the fire doors in the east wing. Anyone else working with you inside? Robert asked.